to shed more light recently on the report that we exhibited earlier about the reduction of the new fiscal year. We have on the phone with us Dr. Ayman Ghoneim. Good evening, Dr. Ayman.
Good evening, madam. How are you?
How are you today? Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you, and same to all the Egyptians and to the whole world.
Thank you. The Ministry of Finance announced earlier a significant reduction in the overall budget. It's a deficit for the period from last July to November. How do you weigh on this reduction, and how is it going to affect the economy?
Well, actually, Egypt was really successful in conducting its structural and fiscal reforms since 2014, since President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi took over power. What happened was that Egypt had a very strong will, very strong political will to conduct such reforms, and the whole country was convinced that we have to go through this process in order to mend our financial position and in order to facilitate economic growth in the future. So Egypt was able to reduce its budget deficit from around 13.9% of GDP in 2013 to around 6% in the present fiscal year that will end on June 30th, 2025. This one thing, and also was able to start generating so-called primary surplus. Primary surplus means that the revenues minus the expenses, excluding the interest payments, should be a positive figure. Now, I think in the present financial year that's ending June 30th, 2025, I think we're targeting around 3.1% primary surplus. And such success actually was due to many factors. First of all, increasing the country's revenues, increasing its tax receipts. The country now is really serious in levying the taxes and in excising the state's right in levying all its taxes. This one thing, and second, the rationalization of subsidies. And of course, when you talk about the rationalization of subsidies, we're not talking about reducing them or reducing the welfare expenditure, because actually the welfare expenditure, the social expenditure, is continuously increasing, but it's increasing according to the country's, we can say according to the country's real means, according to the country's capabilities. So if you look at the social expenditure, it increased from around 529 billion Egyptian pounds in the previous year's budget to I think 636 billion pounds in this year's budget. Okay, but at the same time, the Egyptian government, the Egyptian Ministry of Finance, is really serious about spending from real resources, not like in the previous times, in the previous decades, where the expenditure used to come on the expense of increasing the budget deficit, or even, we would say, monetizing the debt, which is printing money now. Egypt is really now maintaining its financial discipline and is so serious about such maintenance since 2014, as I said. Also, the country now is serious about putting its debt on a decreasing trend. Egypt is serious about trying to reduce its sovereign debt, especially the external debt, putting it under control, and trying to limit its borrowings based on its needs for development and needs for economic growth.
Yes.
And such financial discipline actually was commended by most of the financial organizations, or most of the multilateral financial organizations like the IMF, the World Bank, and also by the credit rating agencies. We have seen a trend of improving the Egyptian sovereign rating, and we've seen the latest one was by Fitch in improving our sovereign rating, I think, to be with a stable outlook.
Yes,
so,
Dr. Ayman.
All these, yes.
Dr. Ayman, the government is very keen on making the economy get better and grow much better. And I've recently seen that the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is keen on making the private sector work in cooperation with the government sector. And I have the data here saying private sector's investments had reached 63% during the first quarter of the fiscal year 2024-2025. How do you weigh on the private sector's cooperation and role in the progress of the country's economy?
Well, the Egyptian government and the Egyptian president, as you said, is keen about the enablement of the private sector. Yes. Increasing the private sector's share in the gross domestic product, increasing the private sector share in the investment, and also in the we can call it the partnership, or fostering the partnerships between the local and foreign private sectors. They're also keen about the transfer of knowledge and transfer of technology inside Egypt, and such transfer is pioneered, of course, by the private sector, because there is a real political will now to enable and to expand and to strengthen the Egyptian private sector, especially that the president is convinced and the government is convinced that the management of the private sector has proven to be more effective worldwide and also regionally and locally, more effective, of course, than the state-owned enterprises. This is an international phenomenon, and we're not away from it. I would say that the recent diplomatic efforts undertaken by the president and building and strengthening the ties either with the European Union, with North America, with the BRICS countries, they all go to the benefit of the private sector and to the enablement and to creating opportunities for the Egyptian private sector. But again, all this depends on our work, on our ability to exploit such opportunities.
Dr. Ayman, as we speak of economy, tourism remains one of the main economic sectors that supports the Egyptian economy, and actually the volume had reached 15.7 million during the previous year only. To what extent do you think that tourism will influence the economy in the next few years?
Well, actually, madam, you are tapping a very important subject here, which is the growth that the Egyptian tourism achieved during the term of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. This is one thing. But whether this growth is enough for us, for our ambitions, and even for the goals set by the president, this is a different story. Now, we all know that tourism increased from around 6.7 billion US dollars in 2014 when President al-Sisi took over, to, as you said, 15 billion dollars last year. But whether this is enough or not, now this is a different story. Now, of course, you know that any government in the world, if it doubles the revenues of any sector in let's say 1 decade, now it will be considered a big success. But here in Egypt, no, we need more, and we can achieve more, because actually, if we look at other countries in the region, like for example the United Arab Emirates, they achieved around 52 billion US dollars per annum. If you look at Turkey, it's around 50 billion US dollars per annum also. If you look at Saudi Arabia, the religious tourism, it achieved more than 35 billion US dollars per annum. Here in Egypt, first of all, the goal set by the Egyptian government is around 30 billion dollars per annum. And this is not an imaginary goal. No, this is actually an achievable goal, because if you look at the Egyptian capabilities in terms of tourism, whether you talk about coastal tourism, about desert tourism, about monument tourism, visiting monuments, visiting like Luxor and Aswan, Cairo, and also we have many untapped capabilities, many untapped segments in our tourism industry. For example, the journey of the Holy Family. Imagine in the world we live in, we have around 2 billion Christians living in this world now. If only 1% of them are really religious people, it would be around 2 million, 20 million persons. So the 20 million, imagine that you can have like 20 million tourists coming per annum every year to visit or to perform pilgrimage and to visit the holy sites visited by the Holy Family here in Egypt. I believe this could generate revenues of no less than from maybe 10 to 12 billion US dollars per annum. So still we have a lot of capabilities untapped and we can work on them.
Dr. Ayman, do you believe that the regional conflicts that are around Egypt right now, do you think could it affect the tourism sector and accordingly the economic growth that comes from it?
Well, yes, but temporarily, because what we witnessed during the last maybe 2-3 decades is that tourism can be severely affected by geopolitical unrest, but tourism has the characteristic of fast rebound. So it can rebound quickly. And we also have to remember, as I said, the capabilities that we have in tourism. And we should never forget, Barton, that the depreciation of the value of the Egyptian pound, although it was something that we didn't like, especially because it increased the bill of importation, but at the same time, it gave us really a competitive edge in tourism industry. So the Egyptian tourism is now affordable to many potential tourists around the world, more than other countries. The capabilities that we have, of course, are really more than, or let's say, it can be more attractive than other countries. The religious tourism until now is untapped. I told you that in Saudi Arabia, for example, the religious tourism brings around 35 billion US dollars per annum. So here in Egypt we have the journey of the Holy Family, the path of the Holy Family. So all these factors can lead to expanding tourism in Egypt, especially that until now, even with the expansion that we achieved, I told you it was from 6.7 billion US dollars per annum in 2014 when President El-Sisi took over. Now it's 15 billion, but even with this expansion, our share of the pie is still small.
Yes.
Other countries like, as I told you, UAE, they generate around 52 billion.
Yes.
Yeah, 52 billion per annum. Turkey around 50. So our share of the pie, and when your share is small, then you can expand it aggressively, actually.
Yes. Dr. Ayman, thank you so much for your insights on the economy situation in Egypt. We had over the phone with us Dr. Ayman Ghoneim. He's an economic expert and he gave us surely very important insights on the economy in Egypt now. But we will be moving forward with our news right after this short break.